So I'm very excited about this conversation because we spend a lot of time at this event talking with great CEOs or CTOs or founders of startups, and of course, they're always at the leading edge of the latest thing, and it's a little easy to get carried away by the excitement of creating new products which is easy when you have a team of 10. Well, easy, it's not that easy, but when you have a small team, you can be nimble and quick. And it's super interesting to get the perspective of someone who actually has to use all of those tools and techniques and create a data-driven culture in a large enterprise context. So I think this is fantastic, and I'm excited to have you. So maybe to start with, maybe a quick introduction on yourself and sure. Your role.
So I'm DiModugno. I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at AXA. The role has been in existence now for just about 2 years, and so we've been building our organization and structure around the idea that big data is a good investment for just about anybody out there based on all the data that's being created. The way that we have been looking at this is that our parent company in France, which is where our headquarters are, we have looked at opportunities to really start to take the data that we have accessible to us from our customers and augment it with third-party data. So we've heard in the past from other third-party vendors that augment the data, Axiom's, LexisNexis, all these folks, Experian, that help us to essentially stitch our data together and really give us a further understanding beyond what we just know from the information that we're capturing at the point of sale. So it's really working out well for us. We've made some good investments here in the U.S. As well, and our team is quite extensive. It goes across actually across the globe. We've got data scientists and engineers from India on the team. We've got data scientists from France on the team. We have actuarial students here locally. We've got actuaries that have gone through formal actuary training that have essentially converted into data scientists, and it's really been a great growth story.
Terrific. Let's talk about this part, because so insurance companies are the quintessential data-driven companies. The very core, I mean, actual science is fundamentally about math and statistics. As this permeated the rest of the organization, and do you see actuaries evolving in how they do their work?
So what we found is that, quite frankly, we had some data scientists essentially within our midst. And so the actuaries that we had within our organizations, especially some of the younger ones, it was a very nice conversion for them to be able to pick up R coding, Python coding, and really start to understand how to utilize some of these tools a little bit differently around these large data sets that they were very comfortable with to begin with. And so utilizing their background in probability and statistical and math, statistical analysis and math, it's really been a great opportunity for us to grow this actuarial science space into the big data science space, and really the two are coming together nicely for us.
Great. All right, so maybe tell us a little bit, maybe some examples of what you do in terms of using data and big data in terms of business objectives. I think I read some stuff around customer churn and some examples, I guess.
So we're always looking for opportunities to enhance the customer experience. So one of the things that we've been doing in France and in Europe specifically is that they've been looking at auto claim fraud, and specifically looking at it from a standpoint of the repair shops that are doing the repairs. And so by doing an analysis around that, they're able to essentially find where are the areas that are good, bad, and indifferent, and really help our customers to make sure that they're going to the right claim shops and getting really good service. We also have a big initiative in Europe as well with telematics right now. So in the property and casualty space, specifically in auto, we get a much better capability to give better pricing based on how people are using their automobiles and their daily driving habits. Here in the US, we've really been focusing around our life insurance products, and specifically in predictive underwriting. We're really trying to make sure that our underwriting capability has a level of consistency associated with it. So you can imagine you're relying on people who have gone through this underwriting training, all their education, and now all of a sudden they've got to make a determination on whether someone's a good risk or not, and try to predict how healthy they're going to be throughout the rest of their life, and whether they're a good risk for us, but also to make sure that they've got good pricing as well as good coverage and protection for their family going forward. So in looking at that, our actuary efforts and our predictive underwriting efforts have really started to take advantage of the information that we're collecting at the point of sale, augmenting it with additional information that's accessible, maybe through prescription databases, looking at down the road electronic health records, maybe even using Fitbit type information to really give us a much better understanding of our customers going forward. And the one thing that I want to express considerably here is that we need, obviously, the express written consent of our customers to use any of that data and making any of the judgments on them. And so that's a big piece of what we're doing, as well as that there's regulatory components that we have to adhere to.
Yeah, the telematics example in particular is fascinating. One other area where we spend a lot of time on at FirstMark is the Internet of Things, and it seems that insurance companies are very closely related in terms of actually doing something with all the data exhaust that's coming from all those connected devices. So maybe any additional details on telematics? Is that some specific hardware that you guys install in cars? Is that a mobile app? Do you work with
Exactly. Well, it's a partnership, and so currently we're using specific devices that will go ahead and attach into a car's maintenance port, and so we can go ahead and we can milk information from the car, speed, geolocation, all that information, and that, again, it helps us to look at patterns as to where people are driving and when they're driving in those areas. Is it a congested area? Are there a lot of stop signs, or are there a lot of children in those areas? And so all that information, it helps us to really understand from a pricing standpoint and the risk standpoint to really make sure that our customers are having a good experience and getting the best benefit from our products.
There's plenty of fun things to think about, like how do you insure an autonomous car, or
that's a really interesting conversation that's just starting to happen in our space anyway. But this whole idea of the autonomy of a self-driving car really lends a whole nother aspect of who's liable for what. Similar to almost like the gun manufacturers and their liability in someone getting shot. Now you've got to take into account how is it that this car and the software associated with the car, at what point is who liable in that chain of events.
And I think you were doing some interesting work at call centers as well. Do you have an analytics strategy around call centers? I read that somewhere.
So we're always trying to, again, provide the best service for our customers. And so in the call centers, we've been looking at opportunities to come up with a next best product for them to make sure that they've got good coverage. And again, the intent for us here in the U.S., we're very much focused on just the life and wealth management space. So we don't handle the property and casualty space here in the U.S. yet. But in this life and wealth management, we're always looking to make sure that people have their money essentially invested in the right areas, whether it's an accumulation product, whether it's a protection product. Again, we're really looking out for our customers and making sure that they've got the right balance of products to protect them.
And from a call center perspective, it's quite literally, it's the ability for the customer representative to answer specific claims, specific questions and suggest certain...
Well, from a call center standpoint, one of the things that we've looked at quite extensively is how do we make sure that the right person's talking to the right person about the right product? And so we look at these swim lanes or these segments of people, how they're coming in based on their age, their face amount of the life insurance that they're looking for. If it's at the lower end of the scale, we want to make sure that because that's a less complex deal, it goes through a less complex process. When somebody is a little bit older in age and they're looking for much more in life insurance coverage, well, it becomes a more complex deal. And so we've got to make sure that it's streamed to the right organization within the call center to be able to handle those questions.
Great. You alluded to this a little bit, but tell us a little bit about the data stack, the data infrastructure. What do you guys use? Is it, and particularly in the context of a gigantic company like AXA, does US have a different tech stack than the rest of the world? How does that work?
Well, because of a lot of the regulatory environment, one of our challenges is that data can't flow freely from continent to continent, okay? And so one of the things that we've done is we've essentially built 3 main data analysis hubs around the world. So we've got one in France, in the Paris location. We've got one here in US to support all of the Americas. And then we're in the process right now of building one in Singapore as well. So the one that we've got here in the US, it's primarily a Cloudera Hadoop stack that we've used a blueprint that was essentially blessed by our brethren over in France. And with that, we've got R and Python and Spark. We use some Dataiku along the way, and so all these products kind of come together to give us a capability for not only our actuaries, but also our data scientists to access the data that they need.
Great. And there are a lot of entrepreneurs or people working in startups here in the audience. How does a startup get to work with you guys? So you mentioned Dataiku, who presented here last time, who, interestingly, the founder, I think, used to work with Nicolas in the top French search company. It's all very surprisingly incestuous.
Very incestuous.
So how does from your perspective, so I'm sure you get pitched every single day,
every single day. Yeah.
So how does I guess how does it feel from your perspective, and I mean, how does a startup get to work with you guys? What would you recommend? Taking your hat off and sort of providing advice to startups.
Yeah, what we are always looking for is we're looking for components that are filling gaps in what we have today. So quite frankly, we partnered with a young data science startup when we were first starting up, because we did not have the experience nor the resources to be able to do all the things that we wanted to do. All right, so we've gone ahead and we've matured past that, but now we are looking at specific organizations that can help us in very specific areas. So you can imagine we've got years and years and years of life insurance applications and information, but unfortunately it is just that. It's information. It's locked up on paper sitting in Iron Mountain. And so as someone comes through with a claim today, potentially, you know, if someone dies today and a claim comes in, what would be great is if we could go ahead and look back in time and see all the information that we had associated with that at the time of application. And so that's truly the basis of unstructured data, right? I've got a picture of an application sitting on microfiche. And so now what do I do with that? We found a really great partner that we could go ahead and essentially extract that unstructured data to be able to turn it into digital information that now we can go ahead and we can look at going forward. We've got HIPAA forms, again, that are wet signature documents. We needed some capability to go back and look at those HIPAA forms to ensure that the dates were compliant with what we were doing with them. Again, that company in the unstructured space was able to come forward and really help us out with that.
Great. And how did that relationship start? Like, did people come to you and you listened to what they had to say and they happened to meet your need, and then you did a pilot with them? What should a startup expect when starting a relationship with you?
So I'll tell you, you know, I'll be the first to say we're a young organization, right? So we don't have a lot of experienced data scientists on our staff. We have we have a good team, but our team on the maturity scale is still growing. And so when we have the opportunity to have someone come in and show us a new way to do something, or they've got a new product or some opportunity to partner with us, we'll definitely take the time to have a look and see, you know, is there an opportunity to use this? What we found in most cases is that we have an opportunity to talk to somebody, and as we're talking to them, we start thinking of all these use cases. of where it is we could essentially apply them. And that's where our product or our partnerships have really grown.
Okay, terrific. Last question from me, because I want to open up to people. Tell us a little bit about the team. So you mentioned that some actuaries crossed over, but so who's on the team, and presumably hiring, I'm sure. Tell us about your existing staff and your needs.
Right. So one of the great things about how our organization is structured, and I don't know, I know most of you out here in the audience probably exist in an organization like this in some form or fashion, but we have both the data and the analytics responsibility for our company under one hat. And so what does that mean? A lot of the challenges that we've seen, at least in our organization, is the access to the data quality, making sure that it's ready for analysis continues to be a challenge, but unfortunately the executive world, right, the executive committee, the folks at the C-level, they go ahead and they look at data and they say, why do we need to do anything with that? There's no real value in that, or they don't see the use case associated with it. By having the analytics organization tied to this, now we have the opportunity to really extract the value from the data right there at the bedrock of what we can and can't do with this data. So again, the regulatory stuff sometimes comes into play, but we've got this data, we've got the analytics organization. The analytics organization is asking great questions along with the business lines, and right away they go ahead and they reach for the data. And in some cases the data is available, but in most cases it's not. And one of the challenges, one of the biggest challenges that we've had in this 2 years of existence is that of the biggest projects that we've been working on, it's been 90% data access and preparation, 10% model building. And again, we've had some really good results, but it's really that emphasis around getting the access to the data and having good data quality around that. We are working with another partner right now that's essentially helping us bring our data together in a more raw form so that it is going to be more accessible to us. But again, the challenge with that is that we need to make sure that we're doing some good quality steps along the way to make sure that it's available. Our analytics group then resides under a head of analytics, and that's where all of the data scientists reside. And then we have a head of data strategy who also is responsible not only for data quality, data management, is heavily involved in data governance, but also has all the data engineers aligned under his organization. And so again, by having these under one master or one overarching organization, what we have is we have the capability of bringing these two sides of the coin together whenever we need to, and it really breaks down a lot of the barriers and gets us the information that we need as quick as we can.
Very good. Do we have one question over there?
Have you had any
One gentleman here, and you'll be right after this.
I'm interested in your model for collaborating with the businesses, because you've built a team of expertise, but in practice, how does that interface work, and how do you partner and collaborate with the lines of businesses and the functions?
Right, so we have 4 main lines of business within our organization, and what we've been able to do is we've been able to assign data scientists to each one of those lines of business. And in some cases, we've had to, spread them a little thin in one area than another. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to grow specialists in that line of business so that they have a really good understanding. The business line and the business leaders also have a level of confidence then as people become more and more educated on what it is that the business is actually trying to accomplish. So as you look at the KPIs and the things that a business uses to judge success, now all of a sudden you've got a scientist there that can start asking the questions and can start delving into the data to see what influences that. Where are the behaviors coming from? What are the marketing initiatives? And what are some of the algorithms that can be built to help with efficiency and effectiveness?
You're working with multiple disparate data sets. Do you have any organizational or political challenges in making that work? And if so, how do you communicate the value of sharing that data between your partners?
So the one thing that I didn't share with you guys as far as how our organization is structured is I just talked about kind of my role on down. The really interesting thing about how we're structured is the CIO is my peer, and we both report into the Chief Operating Officer. And so when it comes time to get access to data, I can turn right directly to him and ask him for assistance, ask him for resources, ask for how we go ahead and bring that data to bear. And if we do get into a challenge, then we can both go to our boss and essentially have her help to sort it out. But quite frankly, we've got a really good working relationship. The Chief Technology Officer and I, he's been responsible for essentially administering our platform, and so he's been really, really supportive in that nature. I actually recruited one of his top lieutenants onto my team as our head of data strategy, and that also has helped to amalgamate those two organizations as well.
Depending where Ty is.
Where do we go?
Interestingly enough, when I was a pre-AXA and Equitable,
Oh, there.
Found him.
Sorry.
I was an actuarial student. And one of the operations research studies that I did was agent retention selection. During my doctoral work, I was able to establish a new scoring technique in agent selection, and that was in the early 90s, to show that showed Metropolitan could save $30 million a year. And you're a big guy, Metropolitan's a big guy too. Who do I show this to?
I have my head of analytics strategy here with me tonight, so maybe after this we can hook up with Rob and talk about it. Thanks.
Anybody else has a business to pitch? How about the lady over there?
Thank you. Hi. Can you do you oversee also the asset liability management side of the business, the asset management?
No. So we've got an entire hedging organization that handles all of that area. So all of our investments and all that, that's under our finance and risk organization right now.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, maybe one last one. There was one over there. Whoever you can get to first. This is our director of content, Ty, who's using this as
Yeah, I really thought I was just going to be the dry interlude between the really popular interactions.
He hit a nerve here.
I know that there's companies like Oscar that are allowing their users to opt in with their own health data and then giving them a rebate on their plan. Are you guys looking at anything like that? And if so, how deep into somebody's behavior are you allowing users to go and share that with you?
So there's actually quite a few projects that we've got going on right now. One in particular, we're looking at things like diabetes sugar. And so there are monitors out there that can go ahead and monitor diabetes. And in the insurance space, it's a very underserved community. And so we're always looking for opportunities to service our customers better. As we get into the more Internet of Things items, so all the healthcare stuff of Apple Watch or Fitbit or all this information, we're looking at opportunities for customers to opt in and provide us that data so that we could then go ahead and provide them some benefit as well. But we have not progressed to that fact. It's still on the drawing board.
All right, the very last one, there was a lady that was raising her arm over there. Ty. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Which, that was the lady on the right. Okay, sorry, Patricia.
I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned something, and if this is a product, I want to buy it. So you were talking about being able to extract text from a photo of a text document. Are you talking about doing it dynamically, or are you talking about training it for a specific standard form? If you have something that does it dynamically, can you tell us what it is?
So I can introduce you to those people after this session's over?
Great,
Sure.
thank you.
The guy with the shiny head. Yeah, that's him.
All right, so since it was a quick one, just go ahead. And
Yeah,
this
it's
is
a
the very last one.
very quick one. I mean, you seem to have put together a number of services for customers. I mean, so how are the customers reacting to the services that you are suggesting?
That's a really good question. So I will say that, you know, we are still in our infancy in rolling out some of these initiatives, specifically, as I was talking about, this idea of streamlining some of our products. So at the lower, more simplified level of our products, so for people who are younger, in good health, looking for low-value life insurance, we've got some models that have been deployed that really accelerate the decisioning and the policy delivery, very different than the rest of the industry right now. So we've got opportunities there to continue to take that into more and more complex areas. Our intent is that within the next year to 18 months, this scoring mechanism will be essentially across our entire book of business.
All right, on this note, Louis, thank you so much. This was terrific. Thank you.
Oh, one last thing. So I did mention our maturity curve and where we are. Though they are not out on our website today, we are going to be looking specifically for a junior and senior data scientist within the next probably 4 to 8 weeks. So keep posted. I'll go ahead and I'll put it out on Twitter when we go ahead and we finally have full authorization on the funding on those, but we've definitely got the green light. It's just now a matter of getting them out there publicized. Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yep.